Coming past the 8th pole, it's Ruffian in front by 7 lengths. Something Regal on the outside, second point in time. The other's now far back as Ruffian draws away to lead by 9. It's Ruffian in front and going easily.
Hello, it's Bob Pandolfo on Wednesday, May 24th, 2023 with Power Pace. And yesterday, I'm going to do a little follow-up because yesterday I did a pretty long video on class handicapping, using class to handicap, using my class ratings and my Formula Pro handicapping system. But today I'm going to look at class from a different aspect, and this is important because this is something that takes a little extra homework, but it's something that if I'm going to, especially since this horse I was thinking of betting today was probably going to be a favorite, I want to make sure I have all my I's dotted and my T's crossed, so to speak. So let's look at one of my systems called Power Pace. This is a very good system for pointing out horses that look dominant. And here you can see on an adjusted second call, pace call, which is like a pace figure, he had 104, which is, as you can see, lays over the field here. It's got a 9-point advantage over Retweet. His late number on this system is very, very high, 117. And then his speed figure, his average speed figure was a 6-point advantage. He has a tremendous advantage though on late. Now this doesn't necessarily mean he's a dead closer. The Power Pace, the way I do this is the late number is adjusted for how fast he went earlier in the race plus how fast he finished. So it's not just how he finished. So he gets horses get bonus points. The way I created the algorithm, horses get bonus points for beating par at certain points in the race, and it's kind of complicated to explain, but it works. And this is what I wanted. I wanted to really, exaggerate ability, horses' ability. So in this particular race, Power Pace makes it look like DeSantis has far more ability than these horses. So that's the way I designed the program. Formula Pro, he was first on ability, which is a good rating for route races, a mile or longer. He was second on stamina. Stamina is another one for, races a mile and longer. And then he was first on average speed and first on pace. But he was not first on class this time, like the horses I showed yesterday, because he raced for a tag a few times, which brought that number down. But I want to show you why I thought he had a clear class advantage. So let's look at the comments that here's my comments. DeSantis has run well since switching barns and moving from synthetic to dirt. In his first start of the year, he was beaten by Ryan's Fleet, who went on to beat winners. He then ran fourth in a big key race behind 2 next out winners. He then ran second to Kernus, who won his next 2 starts, including a win in Allowance Company. In his next start, he moved back up to the maiden special weight level. So he was improving, and they moved him out of claimers. He set the pace going 7 furlongs and was nailed on the wire by My Imagination, who had run okay against better in Kentucky and New York. See, that's significant. So then I say in his last start, he was simply in too tough in a sprint that was running at a quick pace, but he raced okay. And they tell you they drop him. So what I did, I went back and I looked at these races. Like I looked at Ryan's Fleet. I looked up his past performances. You can if you search the name of a horse, like here's a horse and the name is Adaro. If you search Adaro racehorse, you'll see there's a website called Horse Racing Nation that gives you past performances for these horses, so you can see how they've been doing. So I wanted to see, well, okay, I know Adaro, since he's in parentheses here, won his next race. In other words, he repeated, right? And Professor Cool also came out of this race and won. But I wanted to see, what did he beat? What did he race against? So once I started going into these races, I could see that, DeSantis was not only improving, but he had been facing some good horses. Even in his last race here, now you can see they moved him up out of claimers, put him into a regular maiden special weight. He set the pace here going 7 furlongs and just missed to this horse, My Imagination. And like I said, My Imagination had some decent efforts against maidens at Keeneland, Churchill Downs, and I think it was New York. What did I say here? Yeah, and in New York, and Aqueduct. I think it was Aqueduct of Belmont. So, and these other horses, they all have run well since then. They were good. They're pretty good horses. So, and even in this race, in his last race, the pace was fast. Remember I showed you yesterday how one of the horses that I liked yesterday was coming out of a fast-paced race, 22 flat, 45 and 3. Here he's back in a 40 claimer, and most of these horses aren't going to be able to keep up to a 45 and 3 and a 22. But he did. He's only 3 lengths back at the first call. He ran okay. And that was clearly a better field. This horse Tatum has been stuck in maiden races for a while, but he's a pretty nice horse. And Not Normal is a nice horse. I researched all these horses. Like I said, I looked up a Horse Racing Nation. Basically, you put the horse's name in, and you put down racehorse, Not Normal racehorse, and you'll see Horse Racing Nation, and you could click and you could see what the horse has been doing. It shows you sort of like, his recent past performances. So, and so you can also subscribe to like lifetime past performances too, in Bristnet or Daily Racing Form, if you want to go that route too. So here he was dropping in for a tag. So even though he didn't have the top class rating on my ratings, he had, big prime rating advantage, prime power, 11-point advantage. Power pace, my other system made him look like a lock, basically. And like I said, just to make sure before I bet him, because I figured he's going to be a pretty, strong favorite, I went back to see, okay, has he been facing pretty good horses? And another thing I liked about him too, I thought the way he runs, I watched some videos, like I watched this video here where he lost by a head, and I thought that this horse's running style, like the way he runs, his stride, I thought is more suitable to something like a mile. His pedigree really is a classic kind of miler pedigree. This is a speed influence here with Palace and City Zip, but he's out of a Medaglia d'Oro dam, Ontario bred, but Medaglia d'Oro, is an outstanding influence. Really, anytime you see him in the pedigree, and he's a very versatile influence where the horses by Medaglia d'Oro usually run well on anything, and they can run on turf, synthetic, dirt, and they can run long or short. So I thought a mile might benefit this horse because he'd be able to relax a little more. Like, you're not going to get this kind of pace. Plus, there was no speed in this race at all. I mean, you look at over and look at this horse, the one horse Martinera. He can barely keep up. Back East only ran once and lost by 17 lengths. This horse, did nothing on turf last time, and his dirt races were pretty bad. Even though he had been racing, he raced once at Gulfstream, but his races at Parks were terrible. Retweet came off an improved effort, but they were stepping him up again from 25 to 40. It wasn't a very fast race, and you can see for 40 he ran terrible here. And there was no speed. None of these horses have speed. Chip's Friend is a dead closer. And then you come down to this horse, and this horse has never gone out for the lead. So here you had DeSantis with good pace figures, dropping down. He had raced well against clearly better horses. These were, all these maiden races were better than average, in my opinion, for the level. Like, this maiden 40 was better than most maiden 40s because these two horses both came back to win, Darrow and Professor Cool, and they raced against good horses. And then even in his 30, Kiernes came back and ran really well after winning this race. Again, against better horses. And the same thing here. Dreaming of Smarty, I looked up. He ran well. My Imagination, I looked up. He has a little bit of class. These were all better fields. Here he's in a spot. He's stretching out, so he'll be able to relax a little bit more. If he goes out for the lead, there's no speed in the race. So what happened is he dropped the lead right away. He set the pace and he drew off, and he won for fun. He won easily. I don't know how many lengths he won by, but he won by a lot. And he paid $4.80, and it was a really good price. Remember I mentioned yesterday that an overlay does not have to be a long shot. $4.80 was a good price here. I actually bet him to win because I had bet a few pick threes and I lost those, and I had some doubles going which I knew I'd hit, but there were only two horses in the next race that I thought you could use. and one of them is a big favorite. So I said, well, the double's not going to pay much if that horse comes in. So I said, well, I'm going to bet him to win, because I didn't like the exactness, because none of these horses look good. I don't bet a lot of money to win on horses that are going to pay 480, but sometimes take what they're going to give you. This was a good overlay for 480. This is a pretty nice horse, DeSantis, and he's improving. And like I said, now, so here's another way to look at class, by looking back to see what the horses he's racing against did after he raced against them. And all these horses did very well, as I mentioned in my comments. So anyway, that's just wanted to do a follow-up on class. Remember to check out my website, handicappingwinners.com, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel, because this way I can keep making more YouTubes. It's free to subscribe. And good luck